Hello and welcome back to the Evolution of Medicine News Videocast. Each week we wrap up the week that is relevant to our community, and we're excited to bring today a new topic. If you remember last month we had John Weeks of the Integrator Blog when we were live from the Integrated Health Symposium, and speaking about things that he'd found in the news to do with the community. And this month we've decided to make it an ongoing feature. So the last news of each month will feature John Weeks, and the name of our new session is called Charting the Convergence, looking at news that charts the convergence of all of the integrative providers into a force for the future of medicine. So it's a great pleasure to welcome, as ever, my partner Gabe Hoffman back in the mix. Welcome, Gabe.
Hey, James. Happy to be on another new show.
Great to have you here. And also our new partner in this Charting of Convergence, John Weeks. As always, a massive pleasure to have you here.
Great to be here with you, too.
Okay, great. So let's get into it. So, John, we're going to focus on a particular topic this week that I think is going to be really, really interesting to everyone who's listening, whether they be a physician or a chiropractor or an acupuncturist or a naturopathic doctor. There's some real convergence about one particular topic, and maybe you could kick us off and let us know what that is.
Sure. The general topic is about the nature of pain treatment in the country, and in integrative pain care is certainly been the front edge for a lot of the exploration. It doesn't matter if it's the chiropractic or acupuncture, massage fields, or the integrative MDs. That's sort of where most of the action is. So what's happened is the Center for Disease Prevention and Control, known as the CDC, actually released their final guidelines this last week on how to deal with prescribing opioids. And I've been tracking this process, and what's interesting is seeing this kind of uneven way that non-pharmacologic approaches are making it into these guidelines. I just say that a year ago, when the Joint Commission put out a new clarified guideline for accrediting hospitals, they elevated acupuncture therapy, chiropractic therapy, massage therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, and mindfulness to a very important prominence. And they've kind of set the standard, the high mark for inclusion of non-pharmacologic approaches. In this guideline, as you enter into the first step, actually the very first thing that they talk about is that you want to use non-pharmacologic approaches wherever possible. Sadly, however, they don't have a very broad set of non-pharmacologic approaches that they invite in. It's actually limited to exercise therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, taking a sort of biopsychosocial approach, all of which are good, but they don't cross over into these other integrative strategies that sadly are not on the table here.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I saw it mentioned, like almost they called it like complementary therapies, or it seemed like to me they allude to some of these other approaches in their PDF that they put out there.
Well, maybe your search was better than mine.
No,
I didn't see the complementary word.
It wasn't. They didn't use the word complementary. You're right, but yeah, I did. The fact that they even said cognitive therapy, I felt like, I don't know. I just haven't heard anything be brought up, at least when it comes to mind body, that often. So that felt kind of good. But I agree. This has been I have some personal experience with some of these opioids. Back when I was, first off, the hometown that I'm from, there's been several. It's a real problem, overdosing on taking the Oxycontins and some of the opioids, and the addiction and the actual dealing of it that goes on, and it's a real issue from where I'm from. And when I was in college, actually, it was a major issue on campus, and I didn't really know anything about it. I was a little bit naive, but I had gone through. In part of my backstory is having had cancer and stem cell transplants and these things in my late teens, early 20s. I was prescribed painkillers, and because I was getting certain shots that were stimulating the immune system, and I was in a lot of pain. And, so I learned a little bit about pain. One thing I learned was like, you should take your pain medication before you're in pain. Otherwise, almost nothing can help you. And what would happen was I would avoid taking it, and then they would prescribe the opiates. So I will tell you that my doctors at that time, number one, didn't prescribe opiates right away, and number two, they only gave me one. So I got an Oxycontin that came in a big bottle like this, and there was one single pill in it. And I had no idea at the time why it was happening that way. And it wasn't until recently that it occurred to me, they realized that this was an issue. People were getting addicted. Now, 3 years ago, I have friends that I see going to the doctor basically with no real issue, getting prescribed a full bottle of these things. So I tell this story to make a point that 15 years ago, they knew it was an issue, and there were some doctors that were aware of it and were handling it that way. And 15 years later, it's like it's taken forever to get to this point on some level. I mean, it's a bit frustrating when I think about the fact that it was clearly something they were aware of, because they were aware of it when it came to me at that time.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it was interesting also. I think back to Dr. Rangan Chatterjee's TV show where he had that guy with who's taking, I think like 25 pills a day, and was able to get him off all of his pills by doing root cause resolution. In that case, it was more like a manual therapy, but he had a significant bend in his spine. And there's a lot of things that would cause the chronic pain, but as long as you're just doing opioids for it, it's going to be a tough situation. 40 Americans die each day from prescription opioid overdoses. We must act now, says CDC Director Tom Frieden. So there is some reason to be, to think that this is an important time for us to do something about it. So John, I know you wrote an article here for the Integrative Practitioner blog about how chiropractors, naturopathic doctors, and acupuncturists can step up into the challenge. So what have you been finding?
Well, it's good news that our folks they're advocating and trying to get into the dialogue, and so all three organizations from national organizations representing all three of these fields formally got involved. There was a comment period between the draft guidelines and these final guidelines, and what was kind of fun is that if you read the chiropractors. And you can see here really a nice set of recommendations. They kind of blew into the room as though they had been invited because the non-pharmacologic term was there, although chiropractic was not. One of the things that really stands out to me that I honor the ACA, the American Chiropractic Association, for is if you see these bullets, they're not framing it all around chiropractic, right? They're actually, as the most powerful organization representing non-pharmacologic folks that are sort of in the integrative space, it's nice to see them coming forward and talking about all of the non-pharmacologic approaches instead of just focusing on what they do themselves.
You said here, John, this is excellent leadership, showing up with a generosity of spirit to make the case for the whole family of approaches and providers that are too often overlooked and downplayed. That was your comment. I think that definitely, wraps that up very nicely. And, I think it's so interesting with the chiropractic profession because, obviously it's clearly documented now that the feelings about the chiropractic profession that sort of pervade society were part of an orchestrated plan to keep them under control. And that's been heard in the Supreme Court. And it's, here we are 30 years later. And I think some of that does still pervade into our society. And I think it's exciting to see, one, more and more Americans going to chiropractors, and two, them looking to support the whole family. John, is this something sort of conscious by them, or do you think it was just sort of fortunate that they went in this direction? Have they been, from what you know about them, have they been conscious to bring in other providers?
I actually was invited into one of their national meetings in 2012, and it was definitely something that, as we were looking at strategy, that was on the table and discussed amongst us. It's something I promoted with them, but I know there are a lot of other voices there. As the field has matured, as it has become more accepted, it's been great to see them kind of stepping into their power now and not so kind of jealously just promoting their own guild interest, but actually seeing themselves really in a role of being national leaders in introducing non-pharmacologic approaches. It's great to see, and it's a positioning issue within the field.
Exactly. So it looks like the American Association of Naturopathic Physicians has offers itself as an educator to the AMA. I'm sure that's going to be pretty rich to some of the physicians there. But again, another great step in leadership. What did you see happening here, and what were your thoughts about this?
Well, this was not a direct response to the CDC as the other two here were. This was actually a piece written by the Stephen Stack, who's the incoming president of the AMA, in which he talks on the AMA site about, he asks his fellow medical doctors, how long has it been, basically, since you've really looked at the evidence for non-pharmacologic approaches? And again, it was the ANP was not invited to respond, but I love this, that they, under Jacqueline Chassey's leadership as the president and Ryan Cleish, the executive director, they decided to just send out a release back to them saying, look at, if you're looking for information, let us help you. We've got expertise in this area. We're physician level. I actually asked them in my comment field here, talked to them about representing all of the other fields also. And actually in the comment field on the Integrative Practitioner side, Ryan actually directly says, yes, we're absolutely willing to represent everybody who's in the non-pharmacologic world that, who we value. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very exciting. Gabe, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I obviously, pain is a very interesting symptom. And I think it's one of the best gateways towards holistic medicine, because pain is something that you can tell when it gets better or not. Some of these chronic, issues, digestive issues, I mean, there's so many variables, there's so many factors, there's so many ways to measure if you're feeling good or not. But pain is one of these things, and having been a practitioner for a while too, it's like when it gets better, it's better. Now, the challenge with pain is when pain is gone and you've had it, let's say you've had chronic pain for 6 months and then it's gone, you forget you had it and you move on to the next thing that's your problem or you're complaining about. But when you're reminded to think about that pain, and if it goes away, you can measure it. And so it is such a great symptom to work with for the chiropractor, for the naturopath, for the acupuncturist, so we can prove to people and show people tangible results. The mishandling of pain management in the conventional model leaves a wide open door for this type of medicine to become at the forefront of all chronic disease, starting with the impact it can have on pain. And I do think this is really big news today, because the CDC admitting that that opiates can't be the first direction to go in for pain. So then immediately people are going to, the underlying thing there is we got to look for other ways. They're going to find out some of this information, and there's going to be a lot of pain that improves. There's so many successful ways to address pain that's non-opiate related, that's also not a Tylenol. So I think it's exciting.
I think pain is also another great example of root cause resolution, right? You could have 100 different reasons why you're having the pain, and you're going to continue having it until you get to the root cause. And so it's a great advocate for root cause resolution medicine, which is what we're all about here at trying to help the supply of, for sure, in medicine. So John, that was the naturopaths and the chiropractors, but yeah, probably one of the more obvious professions to get involved in this conversation is the acupuncturist. So what did they have to say, and how did it match with these other releases?
Well, like the, this was background here is that these two organizations are both relatively young that formed together to create this joint task force. But they stepped up and put together quite a nice document that's linked off the site that reviewed some of the research and some of the background to kind of bring the CDC up to speed. But like the others, and particularly the language they use is using a more conservative approach. The naturopathic doctors have their idea of a therapeutic order of using less invasive things wherever possible. first, a group of us a couple of years ago published something that we called Never Only Opioids. It was an interprofessional group that included chiropractor, naturopathic doctor, acupuncturist, massage, and integrative MD. And that's the philosophic approach is sometimes you just need opioids first, but if you've got a mindset that's saying never only opioids, then you'll go into a surgery ahead of time saying, well, let's set the person up for the surgery with a CD or with a mindfulness practice, because we have some evidence that actually you can limit pain from these kinds of procedures and limit the need for opioids if you actually set them up with mind-body, and then particularly if you follow with some sort of mind-body. So that's kind of, I think, the nice banner to unite under is this notion that's never only opioids, and there's never a time when that's all that a person should be getting. You always should be setting them up for moving them off. And this whole, brain pain business where there's so much that can be done with mindfulness. I think I've always felt about my own acupuncture treatment that part of what's happening there is I'm just taking time and stopping and getting that mindfulness effect, and then I get whatever the needles are doing. So,
well, I love that approach, John. Never only, we could use that in pretty much all across the board. I mean, that's the attitude. Never only antibiotics, never only. If we just added never only to all these conventional treatments, we'd probably be in a much more balanced and, we'd be seeing the integration. That statement almost symbolizes the integration of what we need to accomplish. And I think hopefully it becomes a rallying cry, and I hope, to see it more.
Yeah, we can, that's, one of the reasons why we wanted to continue to do this segment here, Charting the Convergence, is to, to shine a light on these kind of ideas that are bringing these groups together. We'd love to hear from you if you're listening to this and you're a chiropractor or an acupuncturist or a naturopathic doctor, to just find out more about, how you feel about your organizations going to bat for you in this way. If you're a physician that's dealt with opioid addiction or overprescribed opioids, I know pretty much every physician out there that I've spoken to, especially if they run an insurance practice, is getting a few calls a week from people who are trying to see if they can get a cheeky prescription for their next fix, because people get really desperate, and sometimes doctors do cut them off, and so they have to find another physician. And so this is a big issue here. So yeah, we'd love to hear from our community about these topics particularly. And here at the Evolution of Medicine, and particularly with the Functional Forum, we're really encouraging chiropractors, acupuncturists, and naturopathic doctors to get together with physicians at these meetup groups and create connection, because how do you do never only opioids if you don't know who else can provide this locally? And I think this is another great opportunity to remind everyone in our field with those degrees that doctors who previously may have been closed to collaborating with you may be more open to collaborating with you with these types of information coming out. If it's just on pain alone, you have a good solid footing to have new conversations with doctors. And again, what we're really trying to encourage is to be able to create these local groups where you could convince doctors locally that there does need to be a convergence, and that's what we're doing here with Charting the Convergence. So I think this is a great topic. I think pain is something that really may help to increase the convergence and speed it up and accelerate it. And I'm very excited that you brought this to us, John.
James, that's a great point. I just wanted to piggyback on your point to doctors. It's, to the chiropractor, the naturopath, the acupuncturist. I mean, you can go think about the doctors who are prescribing the most pain meds right now and go there and make them aware of the fact that, hey, the CDC just came out with this. They're going to be looking at using less opiates. If this is how you're running your practice, or if you want to start to shift, I can offer this type of help. It's a great way to open up the dialogue, to get involved in your community. It's an excuse to have that conversation. And for those doctors to experience, they're going to have those patients come and see you. They're going to get results. They're going to go back to their doctor and say, yeah, my pain got better. This is how these stories will get around and will start to shift medicine. We need stories to happen on that level.
James, I've got one little follow-up, and it's to, if you try to understand why the Joint Commission, which is a major kind of police force in the hospitals, endorsed specifically acupuncture, chiropractic, massage, mindfulness, in a way that the CDC didn't. Behind that is that, this reductive mind of the scientific community was basically saying, if we have research that specifically shows that these pain approaches are good for people battling with opioids, and if they didn't find that research, they weren't likely to include it, rather than saying, boy, we've got a national problem of a huge dimension, and we've got evidence that these therapies are good for pain, maybe not specifically opioid treated pain, but because it didn't have the research on that specific type of use, they weren't so likely to include it. And I think this gets back to what you're saying, Gabe. You can walk through the door with the Joint Commission guidelines. If you look at 2014 Joint Commission pain guidelines, you'll find the document. It's one page, great tool. And it's a wonderful thing to hand carry with you if you do want to work with anybody out in your community.
Absolutely. Well, I think this has been a great first Charting the Convergence episode here, John. Thanks so much for bringing this to us here. Each on the last news segment of each month, we'll be bringing you John Weeks, bringing his favorite stories from the month in the news of charting this convergence. And again, we would love to hear from you and get your thoughts here on how you feel about this for your profession, and maybe some stories of your area. Keep the news segments coming to us, news@goevomed.com. We're always excited to have news from the community, and we'll get back to our regular news video cast next week with the best news stories coming to you. I want to say thanks to John Weeks and Gabe for being on here. Also thanks to our sponsor HealthWave. If you're a chiropractor, acupuncturist, naturopathic doctor, or medical doctor, and you're looking to have other tools in your toolkit for working with pain, there's a lot of great supplements out there, as well as other things that we've spoken about here. And HealthWave makes it really easy to maintain an inventory of prescribable nutrients, and have all of the top brands, and is a great story. Especially, they have a lot of tools for compliance, which is a key part of making it easy for people to be successful. This has been the Evolution of Medicine news video cast. I'm your host, James Maskell. This is Charting the Convergence with John Weeks, and we'll see you next time.